Thursday, November 2nd, 2023, regular meeting of the College Township Council to order. I invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. At this point, we'll open the floor to public open discussion for anything not on this evening's agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to discuss with council? Hearing nor seeing none. Does council have any potential? Sue, go ahead.
Oh, I just can't remember if I thanked College Township. The crew was great. Cleaned out the area beside the grain elevator so that the construction crew could get working on the renovations to the grain elevator. The one wall that's being finished. Come take a look at it. It's really an amazing job. And also the stone walls underneath are getting fixed. So thank you to the township that got that all started. They were very efficient. So thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Sue. Does any members of council have any potential new agenda items for this evening's agenda? Hearing nor seeing none, we'll move to reports. Manager's update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things. First, a correction with respect to the Dale Summit Small Area Plan. The latest update from last week, I wrote that staff had received draft 2 of the form-based code. That is an inaccurate statement. Actually, what we did receive from DPZ was the actual their final version of the Dale Summit plan. So we have the plan and then we have the form-based code. The form-based code is still being developed, but we do expect to have that within the next few weeks. But I just wanted to make that correction on the manager's update because as stated, that is actually inaccurate. The other thing that I want to draw to council's attention is the fact that after consultation with Pam Adams with respect to the solar power purchasing agreement, and given the fact that we were coming upon our 12-month renewal deadline for our existing energy contract, we did re-up for an 18-month contract period with Constellation Energy. So both the township as well as the College Township Water Authority, who are both still remaining in the SPPA program, but because of the time delays related to the overall development and execution and moving forward of that program, we were in the position where we needed to take an action, and so we have extended our power contracts for an 18-month period. And again, I do want to stress that that was basically in consultation, direct consultation with Pam Adams, who recommended a period between 12 and 18 months. So our rates actually were very good, less than 7 cents per kilowatt hour. Relatively speaking, in today's market, I would feel that we got a very good deal that way. And so I'm pleased that we're secure for the next 18 months in that regard. Let's see, I really don't have other items to mention other than one. On Monday, I'm sorry, I guess it was actually Wednesday. My week has kind of scrambled on me a little bit. We held I was part of an airport development group meeting, and that's kind of a reconstitution of a group that had met with some degree of regularity many years ago, back in the days when Bob Finley was at Old Main as a vice president there. And we basically have been able to we had an opportunity to meet with the chamber, along with airport representatives, along with county community development representatives, and Penn State University folks for a discussion about where's the airport going, what types of things can be done to assist the airport in a variety of things that they may be doing. So I'm looking that those conversations are going to continue, but because it has been so well, lacking is not the word that I'm looking for. It's been so inactive for so long. I just thought it was of interest to let council know that there are discussions kind of at a staff level that are occurring about development. One of the things we had talked about is the potential, what degree of potential exists for a connector to the airport, that kind of thing. So from a transportation standpoint. So those are some of the items that were discussed, and look forward to more and continued conversation about those types of things. That's everything that I had, but I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that council may have.
Questions for the manager?
Two, since you brought it up. But let's go to Pam Adams first. So the 18 months was her suggestion, or that was our best option, and that she said that works for them, for the timeline?
We were willing to do a 12 or an 18-month extension, and Pam said that either a 12 or 18 would work in her estimation, and so we opted for the 18, which was a slightly better rate.
So we got a better deal with 18? That's
correct.
And it still leaves the door open?
Yes, it does. That doesn't change anything other than a timing,
Okay.
from a timing standpoint.
And since you brought up the airport discussion, and it will likely surface at the MPO level, what was, like you said, it's been on the long-range transportation plan forever, since Bob Finley days. Is there something that we should be aware of that all of a sudden now there's renewed interest in getting this put through?
No, I think that this was something that Greg Scott, the CEO of CBICC, is interested in pursuing, or at least having conversation about how that might be rejuvenated, the discussion. So there wasn't anything in particular. I think it is just as a general economic development resource or tool.
So there isn't a bunch of new carriers on the horizon? But
No, we did talk a little bit about that and the difficulty that the airlines are having. I mean, right
that's what-
now, it's a structural issue with airlines.
That's what makes it ironic, because we're in kind of a downturn there, and then all of a sudden this discussion comes up.
Right.
But it does, since we've seen the Innovation Park Master Plan, that makes a little bit more sense, given the long-range plans out there.
We had a little bit of discussion about that as well.
Okay.
Good. Any other questions for the manager?
No, not me.
None. I think it is interesting that it was erected and we just renamed we're renaming the airport as well.
Yeah, which didn't come up during the meeting, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah. Very good. COG Regional County and Liaison Reports. Mr. Best offered us some comments with regard to HR. I'll share them here. The meeting this past Wednesday, 1 November, consisted only of the committee conducting a first review for 2024 work tasks. We reviewed many tasks broken into 3 categories: routine and ongoing tasks, carryover from 2023, and special projects risk management. Tasks of note are the following: job description rewrites due to the class and comp study, phase 2 of the class and comp study dealing with wage compression, policy preparation in anticipation of hiring paid firefighters, which could potentially trigger unionization, formation of in-house safety committee, revision of compensation policy, review and possible revision of the insurance reserve fund via insurance 80-10-10 split. Eric, did you have a Lucy meeting?
There was a Lucy meeting
Okay.
today. However, I had an emergency commitment, which caused me to be late, and due to the extraordinary efficiency that the chair and staff ran the meeting with, it was over by the time I got there. There was only two agenda items, neither were action. It was the staffing and project updates, Center Region Planning Agency staffing and project updates, and the other item on the agenda was just a Center County Active Transportation update.
Good deal.
So I have nothing to report.
Okay. I'm sure if there's something, you'll fill us in. Anybody else have any other reports? I think the only other one was Parks Governance. We did have a meeting and we did review the results of our September meeting, and we're formulating something to bring forward to the authority as well as the general forum in November. So stay tuned. Anything else on reports? Staff, PC, anything for us? Very good, sir. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, any topics to throw out there? Again, we invite the public, if they have any comments to add with us, please share.
Yeah, just a minor note, November 2nd is the Day of the Dead, which is actually, a celebration observed in many Latin American countries, so I just make mention of that, but I have nothing else.
And Veterans Day, isn't it?
Yes,
Friday, we are closed.
Huh.
that's true, yes, and the 10th of November is Veterans Day.
Observe.
Observed, yes, that's correct. The township offices will be closed, as well as many other municipal and governmental buildings.
Anything else under reports? Hearing nor seeing none, we'll move to our consent agenda. It is absolutely the lightest consent agenda in my entire career. CA1 minutes, approval of the October 19th, 2023 public hearing minutes and the October 19th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. We have no incoming correspondence and no action items under consent agenda. Does anybody want any of either minutes approved, corrected or discussed? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing or seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Old business. We have none.
We have none.
New business. NB1 COG 2024 budget review. Mr. Brumbach.
Yes, as council is aware that, excuse me, on Monday, October 23rd, the COG General Forum reported out the proposed COG budget for 2024 at the General Forum meeting. That was actually received on Thursday, the 26th. Since that time, staff, Mr. Long and I, along with, I know, many members of council have been reviewing the presented summary budget. We have a couple of slides here that I pulled together. I don't have any specific comments on the numbers per se relative to the proposed budget or the numbers that were in the summary budget. That said, there are a couple of topics that I think are worth mentioning. The first is, and I know that we'll get into it a little bit more here this evening, has to do with what is not in the budget at the moment. In the budget that we received, what is not being represented were the additional funds that had previously been discussed for CCMPO in order to upgrade staffing and gear up to take advantage of the bill legislation. So that is something that at the moment in the summary budget that you had received has not been included. And I know that we'll have some conversation about that this evening. So that's one item. And the second one is more of an observation, and it's nothing new for anybody that has heard College Township give comments on COG summary budgets and on COG program plans for many, many years, and that has to do with the way that the COG and the COG's policy of calculating specifically the cost of living adjustments, COLA adjustments. The COG does not utilize the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics formula for that calculation, and as a result, there are variations between the BLS calculated formula and the formula that COG utilizes. And some years there are pluses and some years there are minuses, and I understand all that, but I do think that going forward, we've gotten to a point where it's really imperative that all of the municipalities that comprise COG calculate these numbers in the same fashion. There will be variation based on months that are utilized in order to get numbers when you need numbers using the BLS formula. But utilizing that formula is really what I believe is key. So those are my two comments. What I did produce for council, and I don't know if you can zoom that up just a little bit. Yeah, if you can make that just a little bigger so I could actually read it. That'd be helpful. Yeah, what I did is I tried to provide to council an analysis of the summary. These are all summary budget numbers, but they're just College Township numbers. So I didn't tackle the entire budget. I just focused on what it means to College Township. And so what I've done here is I've simply taken the summary budget 2024 COG share of these various categories. There's operating categories, capital categories, other categories. And I've represented here what our obligations are relative to our contributions or our shares obligations to COG. And I broke that out and showed what those costs are in terms of actual millage. So for example, just taking parks operating, College Township's obligation for 2024 based on the summary budget numbers, $354,708. That actually will represent a little over 7.5 tenths of a mil in terms of what it means on our tax rate, our real estate tax rate. And so that's what those numbers are representing. I gave you the 2024, I gave you the 2023, gave you the dollar change between 23 and 24, and then I gave you the percentage change as well from 23 to 24. So we've done that for all of those kind of summary categories for the COG budget. So I think I do think it's interesting to note, if you could scroll down just a little bit, get to the bottom there. Our 2023 real estate tax millage rate is a total of 6.10 mils. And if you evaluate all the COG expenditures are a little more than 3.5 mils of what we actually collect in terms of real estate tax. So I just wanted to kind of equate that, put a little bit of perspective to the numbers, what those numbers mean in terms of College Township specific. If we could go to the next page, Jen. And in a similar vein, what I did here was simply try to show what we are paying for on a percentage basis. So this particular graphic here is simply representing what we pay the most and the least for on a percentage basis with our shares that we're obligated to COG to pay in 2024. You can see parks operating is 21.5%. The library is 19.3%. Fire operating is 14.5%. And those are the three biggest areas. Everything is lesser than. But it's just a way to give you some sense of scale relative to where our own dollars are being most concentrated at COG. So real quick, I did a couple of really scroungy pie charts here. I'm surprised I was able to get them to look this good, though, to be honest. And it's just more of a visual representation of the larger pieces of the pie in terms of where our dollars go. And that's basically the operating. And Jen, if we could go, I think we have one more slide is the capital slide. And this is where our capital dollars that we're obligated to COG to provide. That's where our capital is going. You can see parks capital, actually a large chunk, but not the biggest, actually pools capital in this particular case is the largest. And fire capital makes up a significant chunk. What is not represented here is the regional parks, I notice, are not on this one. But that's another capital-oriented contribution. So that is missing from the pie. And so that's a technical correction will be made for the next time. But that was really all that I had in terms of either comments or data to provide to the council. But I know that we have supplemented what staff provided in the packet with information from the COG Finance Chair, has also provided information as well. And perhaps, Mr. Frank, if you wanted to dive into some of that at this point, or if there are questions about what I have presented, however you choose to proceed.
Let's start with questions for the manager. Anything on what the manager presented right there?
It's not necessarily a question, but I just want to comment a kudo for what we pay for fire services and public safety. That number's really, really, and I had another really reasonable number.
Can we go back to the first slide?
Really?
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions for the manager?
I have general comments,
sure.
but not on, necessarily on Adams.
Oh, okay.
So-
Well, yeah, then if you would, I'll just walk through some things. I've tried to share as the process moved on and everything, but just general notes that the Finance Committee was originally presented a starting budget of municipal shares of $9.8 million roughly, which was a 15.64% increase. From that, the executive director and staff made reductions to get us down to the guideline for 2023, which I will kudo that we had a guideline again. It's a valuable tool for staff and the Finance Committee. But some adjustments were made to reduce some things were taken out of the budget. New initiatives were taken out of the budget to get down to the 8.05% guideline. From there, the Finance Committee, after having received the presentations from all the agencies, went back and did the hard work at their wrap-up session on October 19th and had some very good discussions on what we felt needed to go back into the budget, which took us above the guideline, and what candidly we just couldn't afford to put it on. We did also have some confusion on the CCMPO line items, because that is a unique budget in that what we're seeing is the entire budget for the county organization, of which the Center Region participates or pays for about half of it. When we made our adjustments, we adjusted whole line items when the adjustment to the Center Region share is only roughly half of that. And so an adjustment that came out of our wrap-up session before the summary budget was published was to pull those. We had cobbled together a means to put the initiative back into the budget, but then when we saw that we had taken credits that weren't ours to receive, the entire initiative was brought back out pending a additional presentation that I believe we will be receiving this evening. Working down through prior to that, we did go above the 8.05 guideline by an additional 2.63%. The majority of that was in the fire operating, in which, as we received a presentation previously, fire is working with code existing structures on sharing for new people, and half of that time will support the fire operating. For those who did not see Chief Kaufman's presentation on the 19th, I encourage you to go and review that. He made a very compelling argument of why that was a good investment. And I think College Township has always been aware of that in the safety arena. That's our first and foremost. So, with that, I think I captured all of that. And that's how we got to where we are here today. The summary budget that was posted does show the 10.68. Adam already reviewed how that breaks down to College Township. A reminder that some of the formulas, we get a bigger piece of the increase because they're based on use. And so if our residents are using the stuff, we should be paying our fair share of it. And that's what the various formulas are intended to accomplish. They aren't perfect. I don't know that there is anybody that's experienced the Miller formula.
How many variations?
Or there are variations of it.
It's a fool's errand.
Exactly. So the goal is reasonable and equitable, and I think COG staff achieved that. So with that, I know a lot about the budget, and I'm glad to answer, and we've got an incredible amount of subject matter experts in the room and online that can answer any of the questions that council may have on the current published summary budget. I think we'll clean this up, and then we'll hear from CCMBO. But before we start, Mr. Norberg, anything that you'd like to talk with council about?
I just had a couple of quick opening comments. I think some, both Mr. Chair and Mr. Manager, you covered pretty well, so I won't go through all of my prepared remarks, but I wanted to thank a lot of people for getting us to where we are. There's been a lot of patience and grace throughout the year because we've had staff turnover, we've had other challenges with the schedule and so on, and I think we got to a good point where we are tonight to review the summary budget, and I want to acknowledge the work of the Finance Committee and their patience and collaboration with staff. Also acknowledge, I've got a great cast of COG staff with me here tonight, both in the room and online, so as indicated, we'll be able to answer a number of those questions that you have, hopefully all of them, but if not, we'll be certainly able to get back to you. The comment about the COLA formula, duly noted, and the Finance Committee has, as part of its review, started making a list of 3 or 4 things that they would like to consider referring to other COG committees to deal with or look at or examine in 2024, and that's one of them. And as was noted in the report from the HR committee, that's on the list for next year. So we'll start talking about that. But I'm really glad we can take care of that in 24 and not try and rip that apart right now when we've got so many other things affecting staff. I think this year we can get through that and then look at a good way to phase in that adjustment in a year where hopefully things are a little bit more stable with the economy. And I think many of you may remember that last year the COLA for COG staff was less than what the calculation showed. So I think this helps us get us to a point where after this year, an adjustment could be possible and be phased in a way that no one feels that there was something missing in their paycheck. So with that, as I said, I've got a great group of folks here that we can answer any of the questions that you might have and be happy to have some dialogue. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, council, we've got great folks that are ready to answer anything you might want to ask. Anybody have anything? Hopefully we've done a good job communicating through the process, and I know some of you have watched the budget review sessions, God bless you. But anything that you have yet, or?
A few comments on Adam's and Eric's. First, I want to say that I support the budget as presented, COG budget as presented. Mostly due to the effort that was referred to that's put in by the staff and the Finance Committee. College Township has a long history of participation in the, valuable participation in the Finance Committee, dare I say leadership. And Rich is the latest in that, and I just want to express my appreciation specifically to him, along with the staff and the other Finance Committee members. A couple of comments, and they fall in the two categories. And the first has to do with the value of the regional services. And I offer this as a follow-up to what we hear, the stuff that staff presents to us and the context in which it's presented. And Adam's heard this from me before, and that's the kind of information I want from a manager and from a finance director. But it sometimes doesn't represent the whole picture. And what I'd like to say is that we participate in COG because we value the services they provide, and we have decided to do that on a regional basis because it's more efficient. Theoretically, it should be more efficient. Or at a minimum, we should get more service for our residents for the same investment that it would cost us to do it ourselves. So I say that to set this comment up. Every year we see the same thing, and this year Bob provided a spreadsheet that shows 15 years of our COG contributions and what percentage that it goes up every year. Well, yeah, it costs more to do stuff every year, the same stuff, and we have more residents. So I'm a little uncomfortable framing the COG budget and the services in the context that this is somehow extra service and it's beginning to cost us more. And I say this not so much for College Township, but as I sit around my COG committees, I hear this much more from the other municipalities. I think we have a better understanding of that, staff, so I'm pontificating a bit on COG's behalf here because this is the budget discussion. So I would be interested, and I'll close the comment on COG with this. Bob made the nice spreadsheet, 15 years of COG contributions, percentage it went up. Some helpful context might be what percentage did our regular budget go up each of those years? I think that would be a valuable to us as elected officials. If those percentages don't match or are way off, you know, then maybe we should be looking at some things. But if they're the same or close, then gee whiz, isn't that how things are? And if we can't afford it, then we should be looking at what are we getting, you know, where are we getting the most value? And just like you did with the budget, with the COG Finance Committee, take some things out, the things that we find of less value. Some of them might be regional services, some may be services we offer ourselves. You know, sometimes we may have to balance the budget that way. And then the second comment, and it has to do with shares, and you guys have heard me say this before. I think Rich mentioned in one of the attachments that COG uses 7 different formulas. Come on. 7 different formulas. Now, I'm a bit jaded on this because I spent 35 years with the CATA formula, the Miller formula, and I'm here to tell you that there is no way to accurately capture the exact value. I'm not a supporter of attaching the municipal contribution to users because multiple examples, I mean, the library, alphas, there's so many examples of regional services that bring value to everybody in the community, whether they use it or not. I mean, we fund a police service, and I hope I never have to use it, but I'm not about to not want to pay for it. You know, the library, just one quick example. I'm down there regularly with my grandkids in the children's area. It is an unbelievably valuable service that's available, and I'm not sure that's counted as part of the use. You know, maybe it is, but the point is that there's so many, you know, it's the school district example. You know, we're paying for these services because they enhance the quality of life for everybody, whether you directly use them or not. So I'll close by saying, in general, we ought to be moving towards less than 7 different formulas. That ought to be the short-term goal. And try to simplify this thing, because year after year, these folks spend so much time already on the budget that the additional amount of time that I believe is wasted, the angst and the effort that folks go through to try to find the perfect formula that represents value, as Rich said, there isn't one. And whatever you count as value, you're leaving out other things because you can't capture them all. You're trying to assess value by direct usage, and like I mentioned under my breath, it's fool's errand. We all pay taxes for services we don't directly use, but we would never think twice about not paying for them, and we certainly value them, considerably. So anyways, that aren't really questions. It's meant to provide a little bit of context for maybe some of the discussion that follows this, if there is any.
And that's why he's an award-winning counselor.
Right?
Either of you like to follow that up?
Well, wow. In any event, no, I support the budget as presented, so I'll start there. Eric did touch on, one of the questions I had is there going to be a review on how the COLA is done at the COG? So you did answer that question, that's at least on the table for the Finance Committee. The only other question that I had, and you touched on it in your note, was the CCMPO, that we didn't see in here, the change to that, because I think that is pretty important, even when it was presented before, and then how we changed it. So I don't know if you can touch on that or continue the discussion on that.
Okay. I'm going to put a statement right now that College Township's municipal comments, regardless of what Mr. Nordenberg said, is going to include a passage about the calculation of the CPI. We can't break 24 years of tradition.
Right.
So,
We're on a roll.
and we will get to the CCMPO here in a minute. And I just want to open it up here to the, what are we calling, newest member?
Least experience.
Least experienced
I'm not
member of
newest.
council.
Thanks. Yeah, I also support the
Experience
budget.
is overrated. Don't cut yourself
Well,
short.
and so,
Thank
and
you.
so I think the experience piece was interesting as part of the budget process, and observing it and learning and trying to do the due diligence that I needed to do to be able to make a decision on behalf of the residents of the township. So first of all, thank you for your comments. I didn't think they were pontificating. I thought they were thought-provoking, so thank you for that.
Oh, well, then that was my intent.
It was thought-provoking, and I appreciate that. And I do want to say, I support the budget as presented as well. And I am that council member that watched the Finance Committee CNET meetings, or most of them, and the wrap-up. And I do want to say to the COG staff, to the agency heads, and to the members of the Finance Committee, and I think it's been mentioned, especially to our colleague Rich, that the work that was done was impressive. And so one of the things that's come out of my experience in doing this work has been a greater appreciation for the region that we live in and the services that we enjoy. And I think because I am the least experienced member of council, I may most closely represent a large share of our residents who may not understand. I certainly didn't understand the COG before I came to the work that I'm doing now. And so sharing the resources to be able to keep the amenities, the services available in the community, and understanding the way all the services link together. Looking at the pie chart that you shared, I'm a visual learner, and so when I saw the pie charts and I could see the share of the library and parks, I thought about that, because I think that a healthy and a well-functioning community needs well-educated and healthy people to grow the community. And I think that the parks and and also the library represent that, but I also know public safety is a very important part of our job. It's number one. So your comment about the cost of fire services in the region, I was also very impressed by Chief Kaufman's presentations and comments, and the way he helped me understand very quickly why it's so important to invest in having those driver operators on site as much as we can, because we just had the Oak Ridge fire response. So with that said, I'm pontificating too, but this process, I'm grateful for the process and for the resources that Mr. Long has provided, and also Adam and our township staff in helping me understand this, because this is a very daunting piece of work, and but it's the most important, so thank you.
Excellent, great comments. So our chair, Mr. Best, also offered some comments. Really only, overall, he supports the COG budget, but is concerned about the size of the increases in recent years. And I think there's various things that can be discussed on why that is or has occurred and everything. But one of the things that he did bring out, and I would draw to the executive director and agency director's comments, was in reference to the COG Parks Operating Fund, specifically the parks maintenance expenditures. I would like to know more detail how this is allocated among the participating municipalities. Does this allocation consider what I understand to be very different approaches on the utilization of the COG Parks maintenance resources among and within the municipalities? For instance, what I believe I've learned is the following. See, College Township maintains all its own township or municipal parks, non-regional parks, where other municipalities use COG Parks maintenance resources to maintain their non-regional parks. If this is true, it seems that College Township is getting less of service and essentially is subsidizing other municipality parks maintenance through the COG. And I think that I'll put my parks governance hat on, and that's a topic that has come up there, and we're working on some things. We have some thoughts on how that might be cleaner and everything. I kind of liken it to our planning folks and how they have to deal with regional planning versus local planning. And there's pay for service if it's more than what the rest of the members are receiving. So, but I think that is a valuable one to have in consideration for the 2025, it's scary to say that, 2025 budget, but that was from Mr. Best offering that. For my own personal comments, I've had the pleasure of working very closely with several members of COG staff over the past month or two or three or whatever. And I know their professionalism and passion to provide the best service to the residents of the center region. Eric's comments were spot on, as usual, and that this is an extension of our local government to provide things at a regional basis that we might not be able to afford to do individually and everything. And it also provides the continuity of service across the region, because as we talk about many times, our residents don't know when they cross a municipal line. And so they want what they want and everything. And to Susan's comments about the libraries and parks and everything, it is a huge component of it. But we also, our residents generally tell us they want more. So we have to listen to the people that we work for, which is the residents, and they're using the library more. Our percentage is going up because of that. The parks is just a beloved asset of the region. It's what attracts people and makes a difference and everything. The final comment I would have is that last year the previous COG finance director shared some charts and everything showing the COG budget as a percentage of municipal tax dollars, and it's very telling. So when I get home, I'll send that back out to everybody so that you can see that, because as a value, COG's doing well, and everything. So with that, I'm not hearing any objections to what's currently in the summary budget. Is that a fair statement of council? Okay. We've had a couple comments there. I have a couple at the end, but I think now would be an appropriate time for us to hear the CCMTO again.
I agree with Dustin. I just didn't want to steal his thunder. We got to figure that out.
Yeah.
The borough is.
I'm sorry, Sue Smith, please.
Yeah, I just had a technical question. When you were showing that screen, I couldn't see there, I could see the columns, but I couldn't see what each column was. There was something blocking it. It wasn't down low enough. Too late now, but just keep that in mind, that if it's on the screen, you can't see the whole thing. Enough of it to make sense. Thanks.
She could look at it on the agenda packet.
Sue, that'll be included in the, when the final agenda package is posted, so you'll be able to see those. But as a general.
I have to go off of this screen and go to the other screen to see the agenda, so. Okay, thank you.
Right, I'm saying after the meeting, but a general note, the PDFs generally display better on the screen, I think is what we've found, but
Okay.
we'll work on it. Thank you, Sue. Sir.
So thank you for letting us follow up and talk more about the important initiative to pursue bipartisan infrastructure legislation funding. This is a project that I'm sure you all are well aware of because of Councilmember Bernier's involvement with the MPO and the work that was done on the subcommittee. And I won't steal too much of Jim's thunder because he can explain this a lot better than I do, but I did want to call your attention to the chart that I handed out and provided so it can be shared on the screen. We wanted to really focus on the last line of that chart, which was the summary budget requested addition. That is where the consensus, I believe, of the Finance Committee really was supporting reducing the grant specialist position to 3/4 of the year, so starting on April 1st, reducing consulting support to $100,000 for the year, so the total would be $189,941. So we broke that out going across the page there for each of the shares so that you can see what the center region total share would be versus the center county's share, but focusing then on what the share for College Township would be. But just as important, I think, in terms of looking at that, is how this proposal really evolved over the course of the year. When staff and the subcommittee of the MPO looked at this, originally they were saying really to get the job done, really to maximize the return to the region and the county. They were talking about $550,000 in an estimated proposal in the spring, and that's been reduced based on input from municipal managers and other conversations to the scope that was presented in the detailed budget in September when staff brought that forward to the point where the Finance Committee felt that there was some consensus gelling around the plan that's in the bottom line here on this chart. So where we've gotten is I think an approach that's been scaled down, but is also hopefully reasonable to fund for the first year, and hopefully will demonstrate some track record and momentum and be able to generate some support for moving forward in the 2025 budget with this level or higher funding. But in order to know what you're going to get from this, what the bang for the buck is expected to be, I'd like to introduce our Principal Transportation Planner, Jim Saylor, to talk a little bit more detail and maybe fill in some gaps and answer some questions for you.
Very good. Jim, before you start, if we could keep the sidebar conversations in the audience to a minimum, they're distracting from the presentation. Thank you. Go ahead, Jim.
All right, so I think I'd just like to tie together a couple of points. Yeah, I'd like to start with, what motivated the Center County MPO members to start down this path was back in February of 2022 when we saw what the impact of the bill legislation was on our regional tip. And we saw a series of amendments passed that took our highway funding over 4 years from, over the first couple of years from about $15 million up to $20 million. We thought this is a great impact. But the piece that really stuck with us was we realized, looking at the bill legislation, that kind of formulary impact was only about 60% of the funding, the additional transportation funding that was included in the legislation. The other 40% is locked up in discretionary grant programs, meaning that you have to put together an application to pursue it. So it was very clear to the members that this was an important thing to engage in, that otherwise we're just going to watch that funding go by to more motivated and more prepared agencies in other parts of the state. The second thing I wanted to touch on is that we had some experience with this type of application and the kind of impact it can have for Center County. Back in 2017 and 2018, we had an opportunity to come together to pursue an infra grant application for the interchanges between Interstate 80 and Interstate 99. And it was a successful effort. It brought in about $37 million on what was then going to be a $145 million project. Now, federal highway dollars take time to deliver, and with those kinds of projects, time is money. So I'm happy to say that the first phase is complete, and that on its own has gone almost $200 million. The second phase will be improvements to Jacksonville Road will be let this spring. That's an additional $8 million. And then the final phase will be let later in the spring, and they've just increased the budget from $180 million to over $240 million, reflecting a longer anticipated construction schedule. So the value of the effort that went into that application has grown and grown. Another aspect of that application effort is that it was very much a learning process for us. It wasn't our first crack at that application. A few years before that, we pulled together a Tiger application for the same project, and we didn't put the resources to it. We didn't bring consulting help. We didn't provide the detailed cost-benefit analysis, the detailed construction schedule, or cost estimates that really helped the eventual application be competitive. So that first application didn't score well at all. What we've learned is that you have to bring the resources. These are highly competitive programs. By the time you make it through to the final round, there are only very worthy projects for the people selecting these to pick from. And what we found in talking to other sponsors is that it's very frequently not your first application round that's funded. It's your second or your third. In the case of Lackawanna and Luzerne County, we talked to them about a bridge project, and it was either their 7th or 8th round application that was finally funded to allow them to take on 7 bridges. So this is very much a skill set. It is beyond the capability of our current staff. It is beyond the time resources allowed to our current staff. There are 18 major federal programs included in the bill. Their application windows start opening in November and December and continue to roll through September of the next year. So there is an ongoing effort to match your projects with the program and then develop applications. And that is what we pictured this new staff person doing. Evaluating the programs, some of them already on the tip, some of them more aspirational, figuring out what the opportunity is, and then putting together the most competitive application possible. We know from experience that they're going to need help doing that. The range of potential projects is enormous. It goes anywhere from traditional bridge and highway projects to projects to reduce the vulnerability to extreme weather, to projects to reduce carbon monoxide or other greenhouse gas emissions, and just a number of, electric vehicle infrastructure charging, and a number of other bespoke specialties. It's not possible to hire one person that's an expert in all of these. So we are very clear that what we need is access to a team of people who have a deep enough bench to help us to put together a range of competitive applications. The direction that we got from the MPO Bill Subcommittee came at the end of a 7-month effort. They tasked us with creating a plan to engage in this effectively, not just putting in applications at random intervals or on things that look good, but what would it take to actually engage with this with a reasonable probability of success? And that's very much what our first cut was. We envisioned developing products in 3 separate tracks and really 3 separate specializations. We were fortunate to have the Council of Municipalities early on, and they were able to redirect us into an area that is more sustainable for the center region to support. And so we reduced that to the proposal that we brought to the Finance Committee, where we still thought we'd be able to put together a range of applications. But at the same time, we've been working on a strategic plan, also a year-long effort, and we've been trying to look ahead at, all right, if we bring this person on, we don't just want them sitting there in an office at the end of the hall. We want them built into our effort. So attending the scope and field view meetings, the TIP development meetings, attending municipal outreach functions, and as time is available, helping local sponsors to understand the opportunities that are out there and what it takes to compete successfully. We also think there's an opportunity to utilize this person as a staff expert on project development and selection. We have tools available to us to help that process, but because of the staff resources available, we tend to approach it on an ad hoc basis. Each time there's a new program or opportunity, we tend to pull together a subcommittee specifically for looking at that opportunity and then disband them until the next opportunity comes along. With resources of an additional staff person, one of the things we'd like to do is establish a standing projects committee that helps us formalize our process and help us increase our skills at developing successful projects, knowing what's going to make the biggest increase for the center region with a few dollars that come to hand. We understand the realities that come with this kind of funding, and we understand the restrictions that have to be placed on it. I think the proposal that we're putting before you offers a chance to get this started. I think it is a way we can begin the type of success we've seen with some of these other programs. And I'm happy for the chance to encourage you to take this path. Are there any specific questions I can answer about this?
Before we open up for that, I think it would be beneficial to my peers that didn't watch all the budget review sessions and to lay out how this played out in the COG Finance Committee discussions and everything. I think philosophically there was absolute support, but when the financial realities were there, it was and everything. But one of the things that CCMPO that we adopted in several of the positions is everything that was in the initial draft budget was funded at 12 months. And we said, it's not realistic that you're gonna have these people in place for 12 months. And we asked several of them to reevaluate what the realistic hire date is. A great example is the facility coordinator position was reduced to 8 months because it was overwhelming that people wanted the position, job description and duties reviewed before we tried to hire again. And so realistic, that's going to be a couple months into 2024. So one of the things that CCMPO did was adopted a 4/1 start. They felt very confident that they would have somebody in place for that. And we reflected those savings into the budget and everything. With regard to the consulting services, there were several members that they just couldn't wrap their arms around 225. They coalesced on the 100,000 for that line item and everything. And so in trying to achieve a consensus that we could move forward with, those were the two items that we gelled on. Again, as I indicated previously, we took more credits than we were allowed. If the county wanted to give them to us, we would gladly take them, but I'm doubting they're gonna be agreeable to that. So, but with that said, questions for Mr. Saylor on the presentation? And then we might ask our CCMPO expert in that. I think, Jim, you're aware that this body already deliberated this and support this as a once-in-a-generation opportunity. So I don't think you're gonna have a hard time on that part, but there might be some pieces that we want to put together and everything. So the manager, please.
Well, I just had a question, and I don't know whether this is for you, Jim, or maybe you have some inkling on this, or maybe even Eric, relative to the MPO. This is a participatory program with the county, and what we're talking about this evening is what the Center Regions component of that program is. Has there been an indication from the county that they will step up in the same manner to support the other half of these costs?
I would say they've encouraged us to ask. So their budget process lags ours a good bit, and I don't think it'd be fair to expect them to go out on a limb until they see a little bit more about how our process is going to go.
I would add that it wouldn't have gotten this far if there hadn't been some preliminary discussion with the county commissioners about this level of.
So there's some reasonable comfort at this point
Yeah.
that something on this order will actually be able to move forward at the county level, based on everything that everyone has heard to this point, and recognizing that things change.
Well, and that said, I mean, what county government's a little bit different.
Sure.
And individual commissioners have line item veto power. So what I'm really saying is, we're not gonna get a definitive answer until after the election.
Very good.
Because it's, the unknown is.
Right.
Somebody could come in and, but there was enough discussion for us to proceed with this request to the municipalities. And just to be clear, PennDOT picks up a third of the cost. So it's not half county and half Center Region, it's a third PennDOT.
Well, with the increase that we were asking for going into the wrap-up session, it would have been a third, and a third.
Yeah.
Traditionally, PennDOT has picked up half the cost, and the other half has been split between the Center Region municipalities and the county. So it's been more, historically, it's been 50, 25, 25.
Now it's moved to 33, roughly one-third.
Is it a fair statement to say, should the county not move forward with their portion, the Center Region is not moving forward with their portion?
If the county would elect not to move forward, I'm not gonna say that we couldn't find a solution, I'm gonna say it would be very difficult.
Okay.
To be honest here, what we're taking on is going to benefit the rural municipalities just as much as the Center Region. So for them to not participate would be unfortunate for the rural municipalities in that opportunity. So it would be a hard sell for us then to pick up the portion of that is going to, in all likelihood, at least evenly benefit proportionally. We don't know, because we don't know what, we actually don't know what projects we're going to actually be successful in landing.
Right.
I will say this, though, that Jim's example of I-80-99 is a really good one, and I hadn't even thought about that, and I'm glad you brought that up. Back in 2017, the MPO, Center County MPO, unanimously agreed to put up $8 million of their formula funding that could have fixed a lot of bridges and built a lot of roads for the match to that infra grant. And that took some courage. And that's one of the reasons I think this MPO is considered a very highly functioning MPO, because we were able to put, municipal boundaries aside and, get together and put up $8 million for a project that's going to have tremendous value. Jim, you saw what it leveraged in value to the entire community, to the entire county. And that's kind of what we're asking for here, is for everybody to put up a little bit more for projects that will indirectly benefit everyone, and some of the municipalities maybe more directly than others.
I will share that I think Jim will concur. One of the things that came forward was a concern. Okay, we're successful in this. All right, now we got to fund the local match to go on to it. And so when you top it on fire and this and this and this and this, I think that became overwhelming to some, and that's why we cobbled what we did, to alleviate some of those concerns.
So what you're saying is, we set aside some of that money they would be putting in the MPO budget to save for local match.
If you're successful, I mean, it's all crystal ball stuff, so yeah, exactly. But I mean, I just put from my personal standpoint, this position or program, let's call it a program, has the potential to well pay for itself in the short term and the long term, and everything. Because one of the other things that was discussed is that this program could be an asset to individual municipalities as they pursued some of these type of opportunities and everything. So not only at the county, at a county level, but individual municipality level, to leverage these resources and expertise in things that we struggle in all the time. And we're a robust community, the going back to your point about the 3-person township board of supervisors, that one of them's the roadmaster on top of it and everything. They
Who
could
mows the park lawns.
Yeah, exactly. They really need this kind of help and everything, and then it becomes the rising tide as all of our county municipalities do better and improve. Then we all benefit and everything. But that can be hard to. That can be hard to convey, to accept, to envision, to embrace, all that kind of thing. But again, I don't want to belabor. I think I know where we're potentially going to fall. Anthony, any comments you had asked to hear this?
No. Again, to follow Eric and Rich, I can't agree more with what's been said on the importance of this and so forth. I think just from the community or county as a whole, the importance of it.
Great. If I'm going to be the bean counter, or did you have something
I had
else?
a question.
Oh, please, you go first.
So I had a question, a very solid, hard question. This $34,911, does that increase our share, the COG share? Is that what we're being asked to add to our share?
Yes.
So it's $34,000 down from $101,090. That was the original proposal. That would have been our share.
It would be roughly 35,000 on top of what Adam presented to us
Right,
earlier.
right, exactly, but here, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and my only comment is, I think somebody said it already, but I think the example of the I-99 Route 80 interchange was a great example of not just bringing in the dollars for the road project, but opening up access to the region for development, for, commercial build-out, all kinds of things, and just making us more accessible to people coming through the area and being able to get off easily and also get on easily to eliminate that line of cars waiting to get onto Route 80. So I
And
thought.
safer.
Yeah, so, yeah, and I did think of that. I thought, well, public safety first, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
So I think it was a very compelling argument. I think For me, it's hard. I come from healthcare, so there are always a lot of moving parts in taking care of a human person. But it's turned out with municipal government, there are even more moving parts. And so, trying to understand, hiring the consultant made sense because you would have that opportunity to get in on those early applications and those windows, and then hiring somebody. But then, sort of the idea of, well, what happens if this person isn't successful? Then what have we done? We've hired somebody for ad infinitum. How do we do that? And I guess that's an operations question. So those were just some of the questions, and I think some of that I'll learn over time doing this again and again, hopefully. So, thank you.
Great. I will share one thing that I offered at the meeting. One of the buzzwords going into this year's budget was one-time funds and everything like that. I had offered that this is an excellent example of the use of one-time funds because the window of opportunity here is so limited and everything. And I was a proponent for potentially using some insurance reserve funds to mitigate the impacts on it, because to get it started up, to seize the opportunity and everything. My personal belief is once it's in motion, it will keep itself in motion, kind of thing. But I do understand that, the initial jumpstart in getting it and everything. But I'll just share that I threw out the potential use of insurance reserve funds to mitigate the impacts of that and everything. The other thing that we didn't talk about in here, but I've had some sidebar conversations with staff, is there's some potential ending fund balance potential opportunities, and I think those could go towards lessening the impact, maybe a spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down and everything. But I think at this point we're at a decision point of whether College Township supports putting in, it would be your summary budget requested addition. Is that the correct line item? Okay. Very good. So with that, we can either take a vote, or this is going to be by consensus. I won't assume where you're going to go.
Then I'll refrain from making the motion.
Okay.
Oh, what the heck. I'll make
There you
the
go.
motion.
All right, we're going the motion route.
It's yours.
I don't know this is different than what we've done how we've done in the past, so I don't know the proper terminology, but I'll move to approve, or should we say?
To support.
Yeah, move to support the request from the MPO in the amount of $34,911.
Mr. Manager, does that sound appropriate?
I believe it does.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So you have College Township support. Hopefully we've given you some fodder for your, if you weren't aware, College Township was first in the chute on the COG summary budget. So we'll set the standard.
Set the bar high.
We'll set the bar high for that.
Borough tomorrow, right?
Yeah. But with that, if in our comments, if it would be agreeable to council, if we could add some type of comment about potentially using insurance reserve funds to smooth the implementation of that. Or ending fund balance elsewhere in the.
Particularly if that's what it takes to get,
Others?
well, to get the what do we need, 4 municipalities? Theoretically, we're
We
shooting for.
need 4. Yeah. 3 fails.
As far as comments go, I have a comment, it's coming back to the executive director. So this is in the
Yep.
overall. I have a CPI calculation comment. I have have the comment from Eric relative to reduction in formula usage.
Okay.
If
Well-
everyone's agreed, well, I phrased it differently.
With the idea that we move away from basing it on use,
Solely on you.
solely on use, or it, because you're constant so much work. What happens when use changes? You know, every,
We've seen it.
Right. Comment relative to the Dustin had made about parks maintenance and division of work, and then the CCMPO comments, of course, approving the motion to add the 34,911 to College Township, or approving this
Our
proposal,
portion.
our portion. But also, yes, to evaluate the potential use of fund balances, i.e. insurance reserve, to soften the impact of including the CCMPO program.
Okay.
Those were the totality of
Anything else?
comments.
no, and those are consensus comments, because I think it's important
It
that
is.
we all agree on those, and if we don't, they shouldn't be included.
Agreed.
So, yeah.
Good. One party that always has a significant role in this, Mr. Long, anything you'd like to,
No comments,
Bob, if you would, please. Yeah.
Thank you for the reminder there. Bob Long, Finance Director. Yeah, I had no other comments. Just note that the Insurance Reserve Fund, Mr. Frank is referring to, has an ending balance of $210,000. And so that's what he's referring to as being available possibly for the smoothing of this additional item to the summary budget.
That's more than the total.
Can't get it all.
That's it.
I know.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks,
Thank you for attending the review sessions as well. You were very helpful in the whole process. With that, Mr. Norberg, any parting shots? Did we give you everything that you need? Is there any members of your staff that you'd like to? I think you need to make Kim get up there at least once.
So while Kim's coming forward, I'd like to thank you for the feedback and the dialogue, and I guess I would say momentum. So hopefully this sets us on the right course for the future meetings. For those of you who have not met our new finance director, week 12, maybe 13?
2 months,
Yeah.
3 weeks.
But who's counting?
But Kimberly McMullen joined the team early in the process of the detailed budget, so she's been learning on the job, so to speak, and as we've been discovering and figuring out things along the way, she's been a trooper and worked closely with all of the agency directors, and not only having to learn names and everything else, but understand programs and complexities of odd formulas and so on. So one of the things I'm encouraged by with not only the addition of Kim, but the new agency directors that have started in the recent months and the new one that's on the way is I think we're gonna have a really good team moving forward that will not only work well together, but has a lot of new ideas that we can improve on things moving forward, not only for 2025, but in the future. So looking forward to many good things to come, and I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you. Do you want to add anything?
No, well, I just want to say thank you all, everyone, for the patience they've had with me as I've been fully immersed in the job. This has pretty much been consuming since I started, but it's been a great immersion, and I feel pretty strongly that I have some great tools now to have come in to produce the budget as opposed to just being handed the budget at a later date and said, here's a defining document. To have been a part of its creation, I think will serve me well in the coming year to serve you. So thank you very much.
Just so you don't add any more formulas.
I second that. There's a lot.
One formula should be the goal. Hey, I will say, if you hire a finance director at the beginning, a new COG finance director at the beginning of the budget process, and that person is still around the end of the budget process, you've hired the right person. You know, I mean, if the person's even still in the county at the end, that's impressive.
I think I phrased it, we dropped her in a minefield. And she came out the other side, so. But we also had some new, various new phases, Chief Kaufman, Christy Owens, Jim, this is, very much more intense. Lisa, you're an old pro at this point, but definitely rowing all in the same direction and everything. To council, just to make you aware, at our November finance meeting, we will be discussing various items on how things are progressing and potentially to put forth requests, strong recommendations or whatever that go beyond finance. And the CPI is a great example. That's not a finance policy. That's an HR policy, and it would not be appropriate for finance to change it. We march by the policies that are in place. If we don't like those policies, then it's within our means to modify them in discussion with our peers and everything. But till they are, those are the policies that we march forward with and everything. So we'll be discussing those in November, and then I believe December, we're having a full process after action, what went right, what went wrong, what can we do different, what can we do better on everything. There's no question that this year's process was not by any of our stretches ideal. Didn't plan on losing the finance director, but it overcame admirably. There was various items, the comp study, implementation plan, that came a month later than it was supposed to, and obviously that impacted every aspect of the COG budget. We had some data issues that we had to work through from some of the member municipalities to get to the one formula, the COG standard formula, let alone all the other ones and everything. But the attitude and perseverance of the staff held the day. So I hope we get through to the final without too much more pain. Anything else? Any closing items?
Well, Dustin's comment, is Thursday or November meeting an appropriate place to put that on the radar, start that conversation?
Eric, maybe you could, so all the municipalities are having this meeting. We bumped our finance meeting back to ensure that all the municipalities had an opportunity to have a public meeting to review the COG budget. From there, Eric, maybe if you could share the next steps.
Sure. We will collate, much like we do other consensus comments from municipalities and other, like CIP and the program plan, that sort of thing. We'll try and have staff responses kind of accumulating along the way so that we're not doing this at the last minute. The last municipal meeting, I think, is several days before the finance committee meeting. So hopefully, I anticipate being able to get the limited comments that are needed for this in time where we can pull responses together and information that will help the finance committee make a final recommendation. Then this will go to the general forum in November for approval so that the final COG budget can be incorporated in all the municipal budgets. So we're looking to wrap this up this month, and hopefully there's consensus that starts to build on some of the key things like the MPO item.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Hopefully we didn't keep you too late.
We cleared everything else off the agenda tonight, so you could be first and last.
And last dish.
Thank the chair and the manager.
Staff informatives, is there anything that staff
Thank you.
wishes us to be informed upon?
I know that didn't just happen.
I have nothing to bring forward.
Any questions for staff on staff informatives? Council staff, other matters? Anybody for anything for the
Just
good?
the reminder from earlier about Veterans Day and the township offices, the building will be closed on Friday the 10th.
You can officially say that Eric was awarded.
And we,
Don't-
Oh, sorry.
but it's not mine to
Thanks for
say.
attending the meeting, everybody.
Just add to kudo the veterans at the table.
Right, yes.
We're a veteran-heavy council.
Does that mean we're old? No. So I did want to shout out our own Jen Snyder
Yeah.
for an excellent Center County Association of Township Officials fall meeting, which was this past Monday. Very nice event and everything. And at that meeting, our very own Eric Bernier received his 25-year award, service award, joining our award-winning manager on that list. So,
But did you note who I gave the credit to for my 20,
yeah,
the real
he
recognition?
wasn't there, so you do need to share this again.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he did.
No, I said, hey, that the real recognition should go to the guy who's not here, who got his 25-year award last year, because that means he's put up with me for 25 years, so. That got a laugh out of the audience, but I think they were in
got it.
agreement.
They got it.
It depends how much pontificating you did.
It was short.
The other guy that we awarded had 33 years. I don't know how we missed him 8 years ago, but for sure.
Well, you caught up with
He's
him.
quiet. He's quiet.
He doesn't talk
He
as
wasn't
much.
even-
He doesn't talk as much as
He doesn't
Eric.
talk.
I extend my congratulations to
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. If nothing else, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved, I will second. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Let's go.